Have you ever stopped to think about what truly happens in the final moments of a saint's life? What could a 15-year-old possibly say that would forever change the way millions of people view faith, eternity, and the purpose of life? Antonia Salzano, the mother of Carlo Acutis, the young man who became the first millennial saint in history, decided to break her silence and share intimate details she had kept for years about her son's last days. Through rare photographs never before made public, she reveals deeply touching moments in hospital corridors, profound conversations about spirituality that left a lasting mark on their family, and, above all, the final words Carlo spoke before passing into eternity. What she reveals will shock you and completely challenge everything you thought you knew about holiness, suffering, and how a young Christian can face death. While most teenagers his age were preoccupied with games, social media, and the typical distractions of modern youth, Carlo lived in a spiritual reality so intense that his final conversations felt like prophecies about the future of the church and humanity. The photos show a serene, smiling boy radiating an inexplicable peace, even as leukemia ravaged his body day by day. Yet what strikes the heart most is not the images themselves, but the revelations about what occupied Carlo's mind during those final moments. Antonia recalls that in his last weeks, Carlo didn't speak of pain, fear, or regrets, the topics that usually dominate the minds of those facing premature death. Instead, he spent hours in intense conversation about something very specific that she had never shared publicly until now. These exchanges reveal a remarkable spiritual maturity and a prophetic understanding of the role he would play in spreading the gospel worldwide, even after his death. What Carlo shared in these intimate moments not only comforted his mother, devastated by the imminent loss, but also became the foundation of a life mission she embraced fully. If you want to discover what Carlo's final obsession was, how his words transformed a mother's grief into divine purpose, and above all how these revelations can change your own perspective on life's challenges, you need to know this extraordinary story, proof that God continues to perform miracles even in humanity's darkest times. To strengthen your spiritual connection, write in the comments, "Lord, may my life reflect the faith of Carlo Acutis." A simple act of devotion that opens the heart to divine grace. Now, follow along with me and discover what this final wish still teaches us about faith, love, and holiness. Imagine discovering that your 15-year-old child has a merciless disease, advancing like a silent hurricane through a young, vibrant body. This is exactly what happened to Carlo Acutis in October 2006, when fulminant leukemia struck suddenly and devastatingly. What should have been a normal adolescence, full of dreams and projects, turned into a race against time few can comprehend. Yet Carlo's faith never wavered for a single second in the face of this storm. He faced the diagnosis with a serenity that amazed doctors and nurses, demonstrating a spiritual maturity far beyond his chronological age. His devotion to the scriptures and prayer grew even stronger, as if he knew every moment was precious for his earthly mission. The young man who had always spoken passionately about Jesus Christ now lived that love even more profoundly. While others his age might have despaired, Carlo maintained his routine of Bible study and conversations about Christianity. His attitude made it clear that his spirituality was not superficial but a solid foundation sustaining his entire existence. What impressed most during these difficult days was Carlo's ability to transform suffering into a spiritual offering. Instead of questioning why this was happening to him, he consciously offered his hardships for the Church, for the Pope, and for the eternal life of all believers. This posture was neither forced nor artificial. It flowed naturally from a heart filled with genuine faith and love. During chemotherapy sessions and the most painful moments, Carlo neither complained nor rebelled against God. On the contrary, he saw in each pain an opportunity to unite himself with Christ's suffering, turning his illness into a true school of holiness. He frequently spoke about religion with other patients, sharing Bible verses that brought hope to distressed hearts. His parents recall that he even organized small moments of prayer in the hospital, creating an atmosphere of peace amid the chaos of illness. Daily devotions continued, even when his physical strength waned. His presence radiated a special light that comforted not only his family but all who came into contact with him during treatment. Carlo's awareness of his impending death revealed a prophetic dimension in his life that few can reach. Weeks before he passed, he displayed clear signs that he knew he was preparing for the ultimate encounter with the Creator. His conversations with his mother grew deeper, full of reflections on eternity and the purpose of human existence. He spoke naturally about heaven, the saints, and how he wished to be remembered after his departure. During televised worship services, Carlo intensified his praise and adoration, as if rehearsing for the heavenly liturgy that awaited him. His final words revolved around the gospel and the importance of each person striving for holiness in everyday life. His family realized he was not merely facing death, but actively preparing for it with the wisdom of someone far older. The young man who always encouraged other young Christians to live with eternal purpose now embodied the ultimate example of that philosophy. His testimonies of faith during illness became even more powerful than his words in times of health. There is something that challenges our human understanding completely: witnessing someone endure intense pain without ever complaining or rebelling. Carlo Acutis lived this reality throughout his battle with leukemia, maintaining a serenity that amazed doctors, nurses, and everyone around him. While other patients groaned in pain or questioned their faith in the face of suffering, he remained at peace, as if in constant prayer and communion with the divine. His attitude was not passive resignation but active acceptance of God's will, turning every difficult moment into an opportunity for spiritual growth. During the most painful nights, when chemotherapy brought severe nausea, Carlo would recite the rosary in his mind or meditate on Bible passages he had memorized. His parents recall never hearing him ask, "Why me?" or express anger toward his condition. This posture of acceptance did not come from complacency but from a deep faith that saw divine purpose even in the harshest circumstances. The young man who always spoke about Christianity with joy now lived that joy even amidst physical suffering. His spirituality manifested not just in beautiful words but in the concrete practice of living the gospel, even in the most extreme situations. What most stood out in Carlo's personality was his extraordinary capacity to think of others, even while facing his own challenges. During hospital stays, he worried more about the suffering of other patients than his own pain and limitations. He often asked his parents to buy gifts for children who received no visitors, transforming his hospital experience into a mission of love for others. When he saw a mother crying in the hallway because her child was gravely ill, Carlo would ask to include her in his personal prayers, showing a level of empathy that touched hearts hardened by suffering. During televised worship, he prayed specifically for other patients, doctors, and even the cleaning staff who worked tirelessly in the hospital. His attitude reflected someone who saw every person as a brother or sister in Christ, deserving of special love and care. Medical records note that he would console other patients with Bible passages that brought hope to seemingly hopeless situations. This generosity of spirit revealed a heart mature in faith, capable of finding purpose in suffering through service to others. Religion, for him, was never abstract theory. It was the concrete practice of love, revealed most clearly in life's most difficult moments. The joy and trust in God that Carlo radiated until his final moments defied all human expectations of how someone should respond to imminent death. Even when doctors had exhausted all treatment options, he maintained a genuine smile that comforted his family and impressed the medical team. His conversations continued to revolve around spiritual themes, always with a tone of hope and gratitude for the life he had lived, however brief. During his last days, Carlo spoke about Jesus Christ with even greater intensity, as if sharing precious secrets he had discovered in his faith journey. He encouraged young Christians who visited him to continue pursuing holiness, to participate joyfully in church, and to use their talents in service to others. His testimonies of faith during this period became particularly powerful because they came from someone who had tested his belief under the most extreme circumstances possible. Every devotional, even a silent prayer, demonstrated that his spirituality was genuine and unshakable. The final sermons he heard were received with special attention, as if each word were spiritual nourishment for the journey he was about to begin. This constant attitude of praise and worship, even in the face of death, revealed a spiritual maturity that few achieve in a lifetime. When someone leaves this life leaving such a deep legacy of faith, extraordinary signs often begin to manifest, as if heaven itself confirms the sanctity of that special soul. With Carlo Acutis, it was no different. Shortly after his death, reports of miracles attributed to his intercession began appearing worldwide, touching lives in ways that defy purely scientific explanation. The first case to attract international attention was the inexplicable cure of advanced stage cancer in a patient who had been given no hope by doctors. The patient's family had begun a novena asking for Carlo's intercession, and within weeks, tests showed a complete remission that left the medical team stunned. Another remarkable case involved a woman who had been trying to conceive for over 10 years and, after praying intensely for help from the young blessed one, achieved an unexpected pregnancy that resulted in healthy twins. These testimonies of faith were not isolated coincidences but part of a clear emerging pattern. Devotion to the young saint grew exponentially, especially among young Christians who identified with his life story devoted to the gospel. Communities worldwide began including Carlo in their daily prayers, reporting supernatural experiences that further strengthened their faith in Christianity. The Church began meticulously documenting each account, following strict protocols to investigate the authenticity of these extraordinary phenomena. The dreams and signs received by his mother, Antonia Salzano, form a separate chapter in this story of celestial manifestations that continued after Carlo's passing. She recounts profound mystical experiences in which she felt her son's spiritual presence, receiving messages of peace and guidance on how to continue sharing his story with the world. On several occasions, Antonia dreamed of Carlo in bright, serene settings, surrounded by an atmosphere that confirmed his happiness in the spiritual realm. In these dream encounters, he shared specific messages about the importance of constant prayer, active participation in the Church, and living the gospel authentically in daily life. Some of these dreams contained prophetic details about future events related to his beatification, which later unfolded with remarkable accuracy. Antonia's faith deepened even further through these experiences, transforming her into a true missionary of her son's spirituality. She dedicated her life entirely to sharing Carlo's teachings, traveling around the world to deliver testimonies that touched thousands of hearts. During her lectures in different countries, it was not uncommon for people to report similar experiences after learning about the young saint's story. For many, the Bible took on new meaning, leading them to rediscover the beauty of Christian faith through the concrete example of youthful holiness. Perhaps the most extraordinary phenomenon was the birth of twins who seemed spiritually connected to Carlo in ways that defied rational understanding. These babies were born at different times, yet both on dates that coincided with significant events in the life of the young blessed one, as if divine synchronicity were orchestrating these moments. The families involved reported recurring dreams about Carlo during their pregnancies, always conveying messages of joy and protection for the children to come. Doctors overseeing these cases were amazed at the exceptional health of the babies, born without complications despite circumstances that previously suggested high risks. The mothers described a special presence during labor, an inexplicable peace that calmed them completely, as if celestial forces were holding them. As these children grew, they began to display a surprisingly early religiosity, showing a natural interest in Bible study and participation in worship from a very young age. Spirituality experts studying these cases consider them clear signs of Carlo's ongoing intercession with God. These events further strengthened global devotion to the young saint, inspiring thousands to seek a life more dedicated to prayer and Christian values. One of the most striking discoveries that shook the Acutis family occurred when they decided to exhume Carlo's body for the beatification process. What they found defied all scientific and medical expectations. His body was intact, a rare phenomenon the Catholic Church recognizes as an unequivocal sign of exceptional holiness. After 15 years of burial, while other bodies naturally decompose, Carlo remained inexplicably preserved, with tissues, hair, and even clothing in remarkably good condition. Forensic doctors conducting the exhumation were stunned by a situation that completely contradicted the natural laws of decomposition. Antonia Salzano, his mother, describes that moment as one of the most emotional of her life, as if she could embrace her son again after so many years of longing. The family's faith was immensely strengthened by this divine confirmation that Carlo was truly destined for the altars of the Church. Religious scholars consider this phenomenon one of the most powerful pieces of evidence of the young saint's holiness, something that occurs only in individuals of exceptional spirituality. The visual testimony of this miracle quickly spread worldwide, exponentially increasing devotion to the blessed among young Christians of all nationalities. For many, the Bible gained new significance through this account, confirming that divine mysteries continue to manifest in modern times. The experience of losing a child is described by psychologists as one of the most devastating pains a human can endure, but Antonia found inspiring strength in the book of Job to overcome this seemingly impossible trial. Like the biblical patriarch who lost everything but kept his unwavering faith, she chose to see Carlo's premature death not as a meaningless tragedy, but as part of a greater divine plan she needed to accept and understand. During the most difficult months of grief, Antonia devoted herself intensely to prayer and Bible study, seeking answers that could give meaning to such a devastating loss. Daily reading of the Gospels became her primary refuge, especially passages about redemptive suffering and the hope of eternal life. She began to see her son's sacrifice as a special offering chosen by God to touch millions of hearts worldwide. Her testimony of faith in the face of adversity became an inspiration for other families experiencing similar losses, showing that it is possible to maintain spirituality even in the most painful circumstances. During her lectures around the world, Antonia always emphasizes how religion was fundamental to her emotional and spiritual recovery. The devotion to Christianity that Carlo had planted in his heart from a young age blossomed even more through this experience of suffering transformed into a mission of evangelization. The Acutis family's example proves that it is possible to find divine purpose even in situations that humanly seem meaningless. What began as a simple grave in an ordinary cemetery gradually became one of the most visited pilgrimage sites in Europe, attracting thousands of faithful seeking inspiration and miracles through Carlo's intercession. People of all ages and nationalities make long journeys to pray at his tomb, bringing requests for healing, spiritual guidance, and the strengthening of personal faith. The site has become a true sanctuary, especially for young Christians who gather for spontaneous services, moments of praise, and worship that occur almost every day of the week. Entire families organize pilgrimages that include Bible studies on Carlo's life, turning each visit into a profound educational experience on contemporary youth holiness. Cemetery authorities have had to expand the facilities multiple times to accommodate the constant flow of visitors seeking special graces. Local merchants report that the region's economy has benefited greatly from this religious tourism, with hotels, restaurants, and faith-based shops experiencing exceptional growth. On special dates related to Carlo's life, like his birth and death anniversaries, pilgrim traffic reaches thousands per day, creating a contagious atmosphere of spiritual celebration. The local church has had to organize special sermons and devotional activities to meet this growing demand. This phenomenon shows how a young man who lived only 15 years managed to impact the world more deeply than many who lived decades. From his earliest years, Carlo displayed traits that clearly set him apart from other children, revealing a special sensitivity to spiritual matters that impressed everyone around him. By the age of 3, he was naturally drawn to the Bible, asking his parents to read stories of the saints before bedtime, turning those moments into genuine early catechism sessions. His kindness showed in simple but profound gestures, sharing his toys without hesitation, consoling classmates who were sad, and showing exceptional empathy for people in vulnerable situations. During family outings, he would insist on giving alms to beggars they encountered, urging his parents to stop the car to help those in need. His religiosity was never imposed by the family but flowed naturally from his young heart, as if he were born with a special connection to the divine. He turned ordinary play into opportunities for evangelization, creating stories with his dolls that always ended with messages about love for others and faith in Jesus Christ. His generosity extended to animals as well, showing special care for abandoned dogs and cats in the neighborhood. Carlo's spirituality developed organically, without force or artificiality, as a genuine expression of a soul naturally drawn to God. Even in a modern, technology-driven environment, he maintained a simplicity and humility that contrasted sharply with the materialism typical of his generation. This purity of heart was reflected in all his actions, from the simplest to the most complex. Carlo's life of prayer began long before his illness appeared, revealing an early devotion that surprised even experienced priests familiar with the Acutis family. By age 7, he was especially fascinated by the Eucharist, insisting on attending daily Mass whenever possible and participating with a reverence that stood out against the usual restlessness of children. His devotion to the Virgin Mary manifested in daily rosary recitation, which he approached with remarkable concentration for someone so young, turning it into a true intimate encounter with the sacred. During family Bible studies, Carlo asked profound questions about complex passages of the Gospel, demonstrating a spiritual understanding far beyond his chronological age. He developed the habit of small personal sacrifices during Lent, like giving up sweets or favorite toys, offering them for the conversion of people who did not know Jesus Christ. His participation in worship was never passive. He listened attentively to sermons, took mental notes, and later discussed with his parents the lessons he had learned. Prayer was not a religious obligation for Carlo, but a natural, spontaneous dialogue with God, maintained throughout the day through short prayers and moments of contemplative silence. This intimacy with the divine showed in his serene and joyful personality, radiating an inner peace that touched everyone around him. Christianity was not abstract theory for him, it was a living reality guiding every decision and action in his daily life. Perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of Carlo's personality was his ability to combine a fascination with modern technology with a deep commitment to using those tools for evangelization and spiritual growth. Even as a child, he showed exceptional skill with computers and programming, yet he always viewed these talents as divine gifts meant to glorify God and help others. By the age of 11, Carlo created an extraordinary website on Eucharistic miracles around the world, meticulously researching cases documented by the Church and presenting them in an accessible way for young Christians in the digital age. This project was not just a technological hobby, but a true evangelizing mission that reached thousands online, proving that technology could be used for high spiritual purposes. He spent hours studying the lives of saints and miracles, not to satisfy intellectual curiosity, but to strengthen his own faith and inspire others to seek holiness in everyday life. Today, digital evangelization projects worldwide draw direct inspiration from Carlo's pioneering example, showing that it is possible to evangelize through the Internet without losing spiritual depth. Catholic youth movements use his methodology as a model to create content that engages young people in religion through contemporary language while maintaining solid traditional content. His life directly challenges today's superficial culture, urging his generation to use the Internet wisely and pursue eternal purposes instead of empty entertainment. Prayer groups and pilgrimages have grown exponentially around his example, showing that authentic holiness is possible even in today's high-tech world. October 10, 2020, marked a historic moment not only for the Acutis family but for the entire Catholic Church, when Carlo was officially declared blessed in an emotional ceremony at the Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi. The choice of Assisi was no coincidence. It represents the heart of Franciscan spirituality, known for simplicity and love for the poor, values Carlo had lived intensely during his brief earthly life. Thousands of young Christians from around the world gathered to witness the official recognition of the holiness of a teenager who had died just 14 years earlier. The ceremony was broadcast live worldwide, allowing millions to follow this special moment through television and the Internet, making such a spiritually significant event accessible to all. During the celebration, passages from the Bible were read that directly reflected Carlo's life, especially those about purity of heart and devotion to the gospel from youth. His mother, Antonia Salzano, was present, emotional but serene, finally witnessing the official acknowledgement of what she had always known: her son was truly special in God's eyes. Religious leaders from around the world sent messages of congratulations, recognizing that this young man had opened a new chapter in contemporary Catholic holiness. The church was filled with a festive spiritual atmosphere, with songs of praise and worship echoing through the ancient Franciscan walls. This day represented the culmination of years of rigorous investigation into Carlo's life and the miracles attributed to him. The first miracle officially recognized by the Church involved the inexplicable healing of a Brazilian boy suffering from a severe congenital pancreatic malformation, a case meticulously analyzed for years. Brazilian doctors had completely given up on the child, telling the parents there were no medical resources capable of reversing the life-threatening condition. Desperate, the parents began an intensive novena, seeking Carlo's intercession, organizing daily prayers and Bible studies focused on the life of the young Italian. Within weeks of constant devotion, medical exams began showing inexplicable improvements in the child's condition, leaving the medical team completely perplexed by results that defied all prior prognoses. The second miracle, which paved the way for canonization, involved another healing that underwent the same rigorous scientific and spiritual investigation required by the Church for official validation. Independent medical teams reviewed all documents, exams, and evidence, concluding that there was no plausible scientific explanation for the cures observed. The Vatican submitted both cases to specialized commissions of doctors, theologians, and spirituality experts, who unanimously confirmed the miraculous nature of the intercessions. These miracles were not isolated events but tangible signs that Carlo continued actively interceding with God on behalf of those seeking his help through faith and prayer. The complete documentation of these cases now serves as scientific testimony to the reality of miracles in the modern era. Carlo Acutis' canonization on September 7, 2025, in St. Peter's Square represented one of the most emotional moments in recent church history, officially establishing him as the first millennial saint of the digital age. Pope Leo XIV presided over the ceremony before an estimated crowd of over 200,000 faithful, filling the famous Vatican Square and creating an unprecedented atmosphere of spiritual celebration. Young people from every continent made special pilgrimages to Rome, many wearing shirts with inspirational quotes from Carlo, turning the event into a true festival of global Christian youth. In his sermon, the Pope emphasized how Carlo had proven that holiness has no age limit and that young people can be leaders in contemporary evangelization, inspiring a new generation of Catholics committed to authentic Christianity. The ceremony included special moments of praise and worship, with youth choirs singing hymns in multiple languages, symbolizing the universality of Carlo's message. Broadcasters worldwide aired the event live, allowing millions to witness this historic moment from home, making the canonization a shared global experience. Antonia Salzano was invited to speak briefly during the ceremony, sharing her gratitude for the transformation of maternal grief into an instrument of worldwide evangelization. The official recognition as a saint represents not only an honor for Carlo but a call for all young Christians to seek holiness in everyday life, using their talents to serve God and others. This event marks the beginning of a new era in contemporary Catholic spirituality. One of Carlo's deepest lessons for the modern world is the urgent need to live with eternity in mind, completely rejecting the superficiality that dominates contemporary society. From an early age, he understood that earthly life is only preparation for something infinitely greater and more meaningful, a perspective that shaped the way he approached challenges, relationships, and daily opportunities. While his peers worried about fashion, social media popularity, or fleeting material achievements, Carlo focused his energy on what truly mattered: spiritual growth and serving others through Christian love. His philosophy directly challenged the consumer-driven values constantly broadcast to young people, offering a revolutionary alternative grounded in the pursuit of daily holiness. In conversations with friends, he often questioned why people put so much effort into impressing other flawed humans when they should focus on pleasing God, who is eternal and perfect. This perspective didn't make him disconnected from reality. Rather, it allowed him to genuinely enjoy life without being enslaved by the trivialities that drain the energy of so many young people. The Bible was his constant guide, helping him discern what is temporary versus what is eternal, and shaping decisions grounded in solid spiritual principles. His message remains profoundly relevant in an age dominated by the frantic pursuit of likes, followers, and empty virtual recognition. The authentic faith he lived serves as an antidote to the anxiety and depression that afflict so many young people lost amidst today's social pressures. Carlo had a particular passion for the sacraments, especially confession and the Eucharist, seeing them as indispensable tools for maintaining a healthy, flourishing spiritual life. He taught by example that regular confession should not be viewed as a burdensome duty but as a liberating opportunity to start anew with a clean, renewed heart on the path to holiness. In discussions about faith, Carlo shared with other young Christians how confession had transformed his life, allowing him to experience God's mercy in a tangible, personal way. His devotion to the Eucharist was especially striking. He attended Mass daily whenever possible, comporting himself with reverence that inspired even adults with decades of religious experience. For Carlo, receiving communion was not an automatic ritual but an intimate, transformative encounter with the living Jesus, a moment he prepared for with intense prayer and careful examination of conscience. He constantly encouraged his friends to discover the beauty of the sacraments, explaining how these practices strengthened their ability to face daily challenges with peace and confidence. During group Bible studies, Carlo emphasized passages highlighting the importance of sacramental life for consistent spiritual growth. His approach was never moralistic or imposing, it was testimonial, simply sharing how the sacraments had enriched his personal experience of God. This message resonates especially with young people seeking authentic spirituality amid so many shallow promises of instant happiness. Carlo's example proves that genuine, lasting joy is possible through a sacramental life lived sincerely and wholeheartedly. His most famous phrase, "Everyone is original, not a photocopy," perfectly captures his philosophy on the universal call to holiness and the importance of each person discovering their unique mission in God's plan. This revolutionary message challenges both religious conformity and societal pressure to standardize, offering a third way where each individual is called to be holy in their own manner, honoring their distinct personality and talents. Carlo deeply believed that God doesn't create identical people because he has different plans for each soul, and it's up to each person to discern their particular contribution to building the kingdom of heaven on earth. In his evangelizing conversations, he always stressed that holiness doesn't mean becoming a carbon copy of other saints, but fully developing the unique gifts God has placed in every human heart. His own life exemplified this philosophy. He found original ways to live the gospel, blending modern technology with traditional spirituality in ways no saint before him had done. For young people feeling pressured to conform to societal or church expectations, Carlo's message offers genuine freedom to be authentically themselves within Christian values. He encouraged everyone to use their creativity, talents, and circumstances as instruments for evangelization and service to others. This perspective transforms the pursuit of holiness into an exciting personal adventure, where each day presents unique opportunities for spiritual growth and positive impact in the world. The living witness Carlo left continues to inspire millions to discover their own original way of loving God and serving others through authentic Christianity.